Hey everybody, welcome to the webinar today. How's everybody doing? All right, we got a full room here. Panelists, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. Beautiful day here in Missouri. We're spread across the US. We got a lot of folks out in California. Tom's up in Wisconsin. Tom, how's things up there? You got some snow?
No, we did not get snow. We got a lot of ice though, and it's quite miserable, but that's to be expected this time of the year. So
I want to welcome everybody to our second session here. This is our series, our 2023 Profitability Playbook series, Harnessing Transformational Change. It's a great day to be talking about our favorite topic once again here at KETIV, revitalizing American manufacturing for a better tomorrow. And the way we're going to do that today, we're inviting leaders in manufacturing here to understand how we help companies envision their transformational change, how they go through the strategies of setting goals all the way through to implementation and realizing the value of those implementations. So today we're just going a level deeper, and we're going to introduce our team and then dive into the content, quick recap from last time, and move forward on this one. So quickly just introducing ourselves. My name is DJ Munzik. I was here last time. I bring a background in CPQ, configure, price, quote, working to help manufacturers create better experiences for their buyers, their salespeople, getting their orders through their organizations in a more efficient way. I'm digitally transformation obsessed as well, always helping my team create a single source of truth. I love data and keeping it clean and integrating with other things in the organization, just like manufacturers. So that's things that I'm into. Joe, you want to introduce yourself and hand it off down the row here?
Yeah, thanks for having me back, DJ. So I am Joe Bailey. I'm the Vice President of Sales here at KETIV and have over 30 years experience in manufacturing as an engineer and also in the sales environment.
I'm Joe Moradian. I am on the enterprise sales team here at KETIV, almost a decade now in this business, and really helping companies identify business initiatives that we can help solve, and promoting technology and our services to help them accomplish that.
and I am Tom Fitzgerald. I've been with KETIV for a couple of years now. I am the design automation practice lead. Coming to KETIV with over 25 years of manufacturing experience, not just as a consultant or a solution architect, but also as that kind of person that actually worked within manufacturing hands-on, a lot of exposure with a lot of different manufacturing companies, as well as engineering. So my background is primarily around surface mining equipment, heavy machinery, material handling. That's where I really got a lot of my experience working within the manufacturing industry.
Great, thanks, Tom. So as everybody can see, we brought folks to really represent the full spectrum, right, of understanding, setting strategy, going through the sale, going through solution shaping and delivery. We're trying to represent kind of the full spectrum here with our team today. So we have our top experts on, and we're going to talk about one of the topics we're actually diving into from last session. So this is a session we had last time called Manufacturers' 5 Biggest Risks to Profitability, just really outlining the biggest challenges. And then today, we're going to zoom into a couple of those challenges to really talk about some practical strategies to get this stuff into practice and making sure we're conquering those risks. And then the next time, we're going to go even a layer deeper. We're going to go look at an insider look at a manufacturer who applied these and their journey through this process and their outcomes. So we're really trying to take a stepwise approach here. So today, we want to start out just by recapping those top challenges real quick to make sure we're all on the same page from last time. We're going to talk about one specific topic within those around digitalized manufacturing. And then we want to talk about why a data-centric approach is really key to that. Just like I said, for my marketing team, for what we do, data is key. I think more and more people understand the importance of data as we go through this exercise. And then finally, number 4 here is, how do we get started? How do we build a plan to get going today? So we'll quickly revisit these top 5 challenges. We talked last time about inflation and risk, supply chain and suppliers, digitalization, how we accelerated innovation and sustainability. So we could, of course, spend a lot of time on each one of those, but today we are going to just focus in on these couple around digitalization and how that can help accelerate manufacturing. So just as a quick recap, I want to kick it off with Joe Bailey here because he talked about this topic last time. Joe, did you want to give us a quick recap and help the audience understand why we're zooming in specifically on this area?
Yeah, because DJ, when you look at the 2 biggest things that customers are focused on, which is revenue and profitability for their success. So when you look at the 2 key factors in there, it's digitalization and accelerated innovation that help you get there through the lens of digital transformation. And so digital transformation gives you better resilience in the marketplace. And you get there through a higher digital maturity. So there's 3 things that you want to break down, which is maintaining momentum in digital transformation, protecting your long-term profitability, and also broadening your advanced manufacturing capabilities. And when you look at momentum, it's about investing into the right technologies and being able to pivot quickly when things are in front of you, where you need to enhance the data, you need to have an opportunity to look at your capabilities and reducing these errors. And so when we look at profitability and we implement those, they are a way. It's a way of mixing all of those technologies together and adopting them in the right formation, and being able to look at at your overall plan. And so then when you pull all of those together, you look at your core, and we'll take a look at this in a minute, but we'll take a look at your core IP. And then you start to look out, where can I enhance some of these key areas, these key capabilities that I need that will help drive that profitability. So this is a big area that we want to focus in today.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. So a lot of times we take this concept, right, and we have to explain it in more detail in just a single slide. So we like to pull up this illustration that really drives how we talk to our customers. So Joe, did you want to talk through this and help people understand how this is used and how we put their product or core IP at the center?
Yeah, I think that I'll kick it off, but I also think that Tom, as our practice lead who implements these on a daily basis is someone who can take it much more further than myself. But what we like to do is sit down with our customers to truly understand what they're trying to achieve as a company. So when you look at core IP, some people look at themselves. It was interesting. We had one customer, and I'll use an example. They are in the entertainment space. They create staging all over for big, huge concerts, these types of things. But when we sat down with them and looked at this map, this digital transformational map with them, their core IP, they're really a construction company. And when they looked at themselves as a construction company, then they were able to look at each one of these particular areas and then define better outcomes of how their workflows and how they managed all of their data. They were kind of confused. Were they an entertainment business? Were they a manufacturer? Were they a construction? At the end of the day, they really ended up having the same principles as a construction company and how they deliver. So I'll let Tom expand on how we use this particular slide.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, just understanding, where your core IP is in the industry in which you're in, and those services and products in which you're trying to provide to your customers. There's a number of different ways that we can utilize that and then support, what we want to do around those things with the different types of technology. So if we look at this wheel here and we look at the different elements in terms of, like, say, as an example, customer experience, how do your customers engage with you? So that way you can produce your core IP. A lot of different ways. Maybe there's a website that your customers engage with, or a lot of instances, if you want to have a self-service type of opportunity for your customers. A CPQ would be a great opportunity for your customers to go onto your website and then kind of understand what it is that you produce, and then give them the authority and the capability of being able to develop and design to some degree what it is they're looking for from your core IP. Also, working around the wheel here, how do you optimize that information? Information that may come in from a CPQ. What do you do with that information? Do you store it? Do you leverage it? Do you manipulate it? How do you do that while maintaining some sort of digital pipeline to reduce the amount of interaction from a human perspective, to prevent any errors that might exist or introduce errors into the process, and really maintain that information so you have a high level of data integrity. Going further around, how do you take that even a step further and ensure that there's a level of quality involved with that data? And then how do you then leverage that data as you work your way around into manufacturing, fabrication, dealing with your supply chain and ordering and acquiring different information and products that you might need, once again, supporting your core IP. Ultimately, pushing that information out to other systems so that it can be leveraged, whatever other divisions or departments that may exist within your company. So it's really about tying your data in all together, from when it comes in from one end all the way through your entire process and all the way out. And how does that remain contained, and how do you maintain that? Well, there's a number of different tools that you can use, but definitely it's really around process. Now, going into this next slide and really understanding what is this, why is this important? What is this all about? And what are the different levels or tiers that may exist when it comes to understanding your data maturity? Now, starting off at the bottom of this this triangle here, if you will, a lot of companies understand how to store data to some degree. Every company has servers, and at which point you develop some sort of architecture where you store information. So if we look at this pyramid here, every company has some sort of way of operationally securing their information, be it just putting it up on a server somewhere, and then your IT department has some level of security to ensure that only certain people have access to those folders and that information. But, that only takes us to a particular level. There's no way of ensuring that that information is accurate, or it's of the information that we might need at a particular time to leverage that information. So if we think about this from, as a baseline, and you work your way up, we can walk through and talk about these different levels. Once you have your information, or you have some basic architecture of how you want to store your information, what do we do above and beyond that? Well, we want to be able to catalog that information, and we want to secure that information to prevent individuals from accessing the wrong information, or manipulating information in the wrong way. So we want to be able to find the right information when we need it, and we want to make sure that that information serves our purpose. Beyond that, above that, once we have that situated, we're secure in that regard, now we want to extend it a little bit further, maybe make your data exposed to vendors or outside resources. How do you collaborate with external resources and to ensure that they're able to contribute to the data pipe, or they can access that data? Beyond that, now we're talking about integrated systems. How do we connect everything together so that way maybe we only have to input information one time, or we can even develop some level of automation to ensure that once data is put in, that there's routines or rules around what we do with that data. How does it get pushed to other systems? So that way, once again, we don't have to do things manually and open up these opportunities for errors. Once you have all those things in place in terms of a way to secure your data, you're exposing that data to those individuals that have some sort of need to leverage that data. You're connecting your different systems together. Now you'll have that opportunity to do some sort of analytics and really get a comprehensive perspective as to what you want to do with that data or how that data is being used. So you can start analyzing that information to optimize and streamline your processes as well. So there's a clear evolutionary path in terms of how you want to work your way up through this maturity pyramid here. And once we have, understanding as to why is this important, this continuous digital transformation, why is it important, it really kind of progresses towards, creating that single source of truth and making sure that, once again, when we need the data, we have this utmost confidence that that information is accurate and comprehensive. It also enables us to, integrate those processes and really promote digital manufacturing. How do we take information from sales to engineering to ultimately manufacturing and fabrication without breaking that digital pipeline? All this serves a purpose in terms of, how you work as a company, and also ultimately how you're providing satisfaction to your customers and enhancing that customer experience as you're engaging with your customers. Little statistic there on the bottom. A lot of companies that have some sort of PLM or PDM or some system in which they're trying to access information, a lot of them find that it's a little bit of a challenge to work within that environment. And this is really to be expected to some degree, simply because there's so many different offerings out there. There's so many different tools that companies can use. Really, what it comes down to is ultimately relying upon those individuals like KETIV that has that familiarity of the best way to optimize and create that customer experience. We have the ability to work closely with customers to understand their true needs and the challenges in which they face, so that way we can offer our services to help you guys as customers be able to utilize your data more effectively and ultimately, increase your profitability.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I think, that 86% is a really telling thing, right? Like you said, it's a tool. Without the proper planning, it can only do so much. So,
yeah.
So it really comes down to that maturity of your data and how you're able to store and maintain it. So let's take a quick poll here on that topic and help us understand kind of where you guys are in this journey. Since we have, we feel obviously very philosophically that data is at the center of this, and the way to achieve it, it's important that you bring your data along with you because it's the foundation. So just open up the poll if you guys don't mind. Take a second, let us know which of these you feel like you've achieved. Are you operationally secure? Are you out there collaborating with each other? Are you full end-to-end digital pipeline? Are you out there running analytics? Let us know. All right. Getting a couple of votes here. Let it go another 12 seconds or so. And then we're going to do next is jump back into our outcomes and talk beyond just the topic of data, right? Because that's not the end all and be all. So we'll jump into that next. All right, we'll go ahead and close this. Looks like split right down the middle here. Let me share them. Looks like people are fairly advanced in their approach here. We got people collaborating, which is great. Others are in the integrated digital pipeline phase. So kudos to you. You guys have a great basis for digital transformation. All right, so we'll stop that poll and we'll move on. So Joe Meridian, I want to get you on the conversation here. Revisiting this graphic and the outcomes, Tom obviously very obsessed with data and automation. Can we talk about the rest of these outcomes and what's driving your conversations with business leaders?
Yeah, thank you, DJ. Tom's right? Data is a big component of it. Obviously, you'll see throughout this chart, data is really integrated around everything, right? So that's definitely something we want to focus on. But what our customers are really looking for is creating an experience for their customers that is a true end-to-end solution, right? So this generally starts on the sales side for their customers. So they want to interact with their customers on the sales level and build these solutions independently from the engineering team as much as possible. right? And their customers are demanding, higher levels of information. They want 3D models, they want rendered images, they want to see how what they're buying is actually going to fit into their facility. These old style 2D drawings, things like that. We've had customers that are really successful with that for a very long time. But the demand to employ new technologies has really driven them to start looking at things like increasing their customer experience and providing that information as soon as possible. Right. And then we go into really where customers want to start optimizing their design and really the way that their business works and makes transactions. So all of this data is captured from the sales team, or at least a lot of it. They don't want to start fresh in engineering. Generally, there's a big gap between those two departments. What we want to do and what customers want to do is to push that data from sales into engineering so it's seamless. Right. And this kind of goes from, what we would call optimizing those designs to going to design and CAD automation, right? Going from something like a sales automation tool, pushing that into the CAD side, and actually getting you guys manufacturing drawings. And a lot of times what companies also want to do is innovate, make their products better, make them easier to build, share more of that data downstream. So what a lot of companies have, their desired outcome really is to shift a lot of their labor force from creating these drawings to automating that process, right? And then having more of the human labor force, right? Spend time innovating, making their products better, making it so they can build them quicker and make them better quality. And another thing that we've been able to do with a lot of these systems is that affects the supply chain and the workforce is let the technology do a lot of the work, right? So you'll notice it's a lot harder to find people these days that have 20-year background as a machinist. You still need somebody to run these massive $100,000 machines. You do not want somebody to mess it up or to design something in a way that you guys cannot build it, right? So we've been able to roll these technologies out to be essentially design guides and manufacturing guides that limit the capabilities of the tool in a way that a newbie at the company has a guided approach to the way that you guys want these things to be built. So allowing you guys to hire some people that maybe have a lower skill set or not as much experience, but be confident that they can still perform as effectively as somebody who's been in the industry for 20 years, who is extremely hard to find these days, right? And as Tom talked about, all of this boils down to capturing that data and making it accessible for everybody throughout this entire process, right? You want to make sure that the people in purchasing have access to purchased components as soon as possible, so they can order those and get those ready to go. So it reduces the overall production time. So those sorts of outcomes are what's desired. And we switched over to some of the capabilities here. We're talking about implementing sales configuration tools, CAD automation tools, which really will allow you guys to focus more time on doing some digital testing, reducing physical testing, making your products a little bit better, and making you more profitable on them, right? And then obviously going to the advanced manufacturing portion, like I said, is getting more people able to access this technology without having to fully rely on a workforce of people with 20 years of experience. Once this is all done, there's a ton of data here that the executives in a company want to see. So we've had customers integrate with third-party tools to run these types of analytics and just really give them that edge to understand everything about how their business is running, and really are able to focus on incremental gains that they normally wouldn't even see as existing in the past. And then going back to the initial slide you have there, DJ, if you don't mind, just tying it back. Again, these are the outcomes that the companies are trying to achieve, right? So they want an end-to-end solution that spans all of the different departments. The customer can see exactly where they're at in this process. And then everybody in the company can really work together through one single source of truth to ensure that the customer experience is not just good from the sales perspective, but all the way through to when they're actually, receiving the products that they bought from you guys.
Great. Thanks, Joe, for taking us on that tour. Yeah, if people missed it with my clunky slide management there. Yeah, the idea is we're showing you really the outcomes, desired outcomes that manufacturers are looking for, and then of course the different capabilities that KETIV can provide to drive those home. So taking that and moving forward, Tom, really what we're talking about here is progressing that concept of digitalization within the organization. So what thoughts do you have on how we can kind of summarize that slide and what it means in delivery?
Yeah, great, DJ, thank you. So, really bringing this all together, and it's really about each one of those individual pie pieces, if you will, kind of stand on their own, and they're unique in their own way. They all have their different requirements, different systems, different tools, different individuals, different responsibilities to support those different pie pieces. And what we really want to do is we want to tie them all together. Once again, developing that digital pipeline of introducing information on one end and then utilizing and leveraging that information all the way through. And it's really around how do we then automate and tie those and integrate those systems all together. And it really is about, being evolutionary in the regard of, technology is constantly changing around us. And if we stand still for a moment, there's this opportunity that things are going to progress in such a way where it's going to be a little bit more challenging for us to catch up. So it's a constant progression in terms of understanding what technologies exist. What are other companies doing to become successful, and how can you use that knowledge from what some other companies are doing in order to make yourself successful? And that's really where KETIV comes into play, because we have this exposure with so many different companies, and we're being challenged on a regular basis to accommodate and support our customers in terms of their objectives and their initiatives. And we can take that information and that knowledge base and then share it amongst many different companies within the manufacturing industry to ensure that we all can progress forward together and then become successful. So
cool, Tom. So can we take them on the journey for how we would go and implement this? Because we actually do have kind of a path that we like to follow, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think the first stage, maybe Joe, you could jump back in on this, Joe Bailey. Maybe talk us through, when you're sitting down with other executives, company leaders, having these initial discussions, how does it work to define that vision?
Yeah, so many times when we meet customers, and I really like this slide that you put together, DJ, because if you notice, it's very blurry. And when we start with many folks, and if we start early enough, we understand what they're trying to get a grasp of what the issues are, so they can set some objectives and strategies of how to deal with that. Because if you invest in the wrong technologies or methodologies, you really start to incentivize the wrong goals. And so, for example, real life example we'll walk you through is we have one of our customers is Nucor. So they wanted to sit down and get a handle around their issues, and were they really focused on the right ones through a business process assessment, which really started with a laundry list of pains that they were trying to deal with. And that were in engineering, some other areas, customer experience, and they didn't know where to start. And it really dealt with one of their largest customers, which was Amazon. And Amazon simply said, we just want to look at what you're going to send us as a racking system in 3D data. So it started with that simple idea. But when they sat down with the objectives and the strategies of where they wanted to go, with the idea of revenue and profitability in mind, they realized that they could really expand on these initiatives through the idea of automation, sales configuration, and how they manage the data. So when you sit down early and you define it through these business process assessments and are really working closely with your customer, it can start the right pathway. So I'll turn it over to to Joe because this is his customer and he walked them through and was hand in hand in this partnership.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, so one of the next things that we want to do, we heard this vision from them. We heard where they wanted to go. They had a huge goal. And the first thing we started to do was to build a roadmap to help them attain, that metric of success that they defined, right? And one of the most important things that we can do early on is identify all the stakeholders and who we call champions. These are the people that are directly impacted by the success or failure of these projects. We want to make sure that anybody who's affected by this, it doesn't depend, it doesn't matter what department they're in. If it's an engineering design automation project, we want to know how it affects sales. We want to know how it affects manufacturing. We want to take a holistic view of everything and everyone and make sure that we understand the exact requirements from every person involved. So we can really put together, the highest level metrics and really drive success from that and measure up how we've done to that. This also goes into helping them build an ROI and be secure in their investment. We don't want to sell any solution to a company if it's not going to have an ROI, right? These need to make sense for you guys. They need to pay off. They need to be tied to some goal. And when you can understand exactly what you need to do to achieve that goal, and exactly how our solution or a combination of solutions is going to help you achieve that goal. Once you lay that all out, it makes a lot of sense for an executive team to decide to invest in that, right? They can see the path. It can be more clearly defined. They know that if they invest X amount of time and resources and money into this, that they're going to get X solution. And that is exactly what we did with Nucor, right? So we went through this, we made sure along the way that everything that we were delivering was actually going to help them achieve those goals. And we've taken measurements. We have meetings with them regularly with their leadership to make sure that we're on track and that we know the next steps along the way.
Cool. So let's talk about how we now get that into practice, right? So back to Tom, great, we have those targets, we have those high-level ideas. How do we get those into specific projects?
Yeah, so once we have this understanding as to what the initiatives and the objectives are, then we can start building out a more comprehensive plan as to how we're going to execute on that, right? We're able to then prioritize and understand where the dependencies might exist between the different initiatives and start developing out sub-projects, sub-tasks that ultimately support where we want to go with our initiatives and our objectives. And one of the things that we really want to nail down quickly and through the process is, how do we then measure success? How do we know we're actually achieving the success that we're driving towards? So, working with the different consultants, working with all our external vendors, working within the responsible individuals within the company that understand what these initiatives are, really developing a phased out plan as to what we want to execute on first, and then ultimately move on to the next steps to achieve those goals. Beyond that, once we have that roadmap, then we want to start implementing, right? We want to start shaping out the solutions so that way we understand, what do we need to actually develop as a project for the different solutions and how they work well together to ultimately achieve those success measures.
Right. I would argue that this process looks like this from sort of a waterfall method, right? Because overall, you're looking at your overall company vision, maybe a 5-10 year technology or solution roadmap, but also this kind of works cyclically too, because you get to that solution end and you go, what's that next phase, right? Because again, it's a continuous journey. So we kind of have to go back, make sure we have the right stakeholders for the next project. We have this secured budget, right? It's repetitive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and once again, because technology does change and shift so often, keeping your thumb on the pulse of what's actually going on and understanding what is the best opportunity for developing these solutions.
Right. Cool. So we talked about how a traditional path might go. So now we're going to throw this back at our audience and ask, where do you think you are in this path? Are you still out defining your vision, trying to figure out where you want to end up? Do you have your team ready? You're poised and ready to pounce? Do you have the money lined up? Are you guys actually in projects and delivering? So take a moment and provide feedback if you don't mind. In the meantime, I did want to talk about our next steps on this session. So we do have upcoming third session on this series, and I have some quick next steps for us as well. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll real quick. Looks like we've got 100% of people that are pretty darn well off. They're prioritizing and listing their objectives. So it sounds like ready to pounce and deliver, which is great. All right. So like I said, I wanted to share our next steps here. We do have one more session here on March 30th as part of the series. Again, the point of that session is to really take an inside look, taking one project, one customer, blowing it apart and understanding how that selection process was made, goal setting was made all the way through delivery and an outcome. If you have any questions about what you saw, want to participate in a workshop or an assessment, please reach out to your favorite rep at KETIV if you have one. We have a great customer team under April and Brian and those folks. Or you can just contact Ulysses, our guy up front, and he can get you the right folks. And as always, we always have tons of great learning material on our site. We're really well known for the KETIV Virtual Academy, great technical information, but we also have other great information like this. Our digital manufacturing series takes a high-level look at how to digitally transform. And then we also have our manufacturing transformation stories linked there that kind of walk you through some of these real-world cases and how they're applied. So I'm going to just give a couple seconds for any questions to come in. I haven't seen any come in, although I haven't asked for them. So my apologies there. But if there's any questions, go ahead and throw them in there now. We are a little bit over time. So if there's nothing in the immediate question and answer, I'm going to close it out. If you have any questions, of course, reach out to us. We're happy to help. I wanted to thank Joe and Tom for joining today and helping walk through this topic. I appreciate your time, gentlemen.
Thanks, DJ. It was great.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Everybody enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time here on March 30th. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, DJ.
Thank you.